RotoGrinders, 5 o'clock on the East Coast. Started 2+ hours, nonstop NBA DFS conversation. Big boy slate, Friday night. And it's 3-man booth. I feel like we haven't had a threesome in a while. It's usually just me and somebody else, usually intimate shows, but just the three of us now. My usage is going to go down. People have heard of enough of me this week. I've had too many shows. Batting first. We actually have a batting order today. Hey, it's TJ. The greatest DFS player in all of Canada, if nothing else, Saskatchewan, Canada. TJ, what's going on, dude? How are things in your world?
First GrindersLive appearance since I think October, so happy to be back. Excited to break down this slate. Already did it on the Fanduel Friday show earlier with Luch. After Crunch Time ends, going to be doing the Fanduel Friday show with Dre for NFL. Got a fun little weekend of sports coming up. Life's going pretty well in my world. From a life standpoint, it's pretty great. From a DFS standpoint, I've been so close to so many takedowns lately. Finished second in a single entry tournament on FanDuel earlier this week. Blew it all on an MME the next day, and then on the single game NFL slate yesterday, the entire second half, I was holding first place over on FanDuel until that last touchdown there by the Rams. So we're close to some big wins. I can feel it, but hopefully we can get some this week for the three of us, get some for the chat. Hopefully people are going to be hitting the like button. I had to get sexual with it, telling people to hit the like button the other day, and that was the only way it worked. And it did work after.
How did you get sexual? What's the sexual implication? I missed that angle.
I don't even remember what I said word for word, but I mean, like you said, this is your first threesome in a while. So even though your usage is going down, you're excited about it.
Oh man, and who cares about bad beats or whatever? But I had the other day, I was very, very, very close on DK with Clarkson, and there was only a minute left or so, but he got ejected. Kind of a weak ejection. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know if you guys watched that. That was kind of a weird play. But yeah, he was one assist away from the bonus. An assist would have really opened things up for me. I won some of the nonsense tournaments that don't matter, but I was creeping up on the other ones. Could have made it interesting. We'll see. But again, DFS we care about today only. Bobby, he knows a thing or two about winning tournaments. Former $1 million winner, Bobby Gomes. Bobby, how was your day? Did you watch the football? Did you watch the soccer?
I did. I was rooting on Croatia. And my family has a restaurant in Boston. All the cooks were out rooting on Brazil. Hate to be that guy, but I was on the other side, and I don't know if they were too happy about that. So I don't know if I'm going to eat in there for the next couple months or two.
It's funny. You bring me back by you saying that. I used to work on one of the restaurants I worked at many years ago had a lot of Haitians in it. And when the soccer, they love their soccer in Haiti. And the orders get messed up when the game's on. We're going to be a little backloaded. You're going to be in the weeds because the cooks are they listen to the game on the radio. They get way into it. But it just brought me a flashback to that. But there was a second game. You watched the second game too, right, Bobby?
They're in PKs right now. It's Argentina advances on penalties.
Yeah. Argentina advanced 2-2. Another one's the Dutch closed strong just to get to extra time. That was a fun watch. It'll be by the way, it's 1 o'clock now in Qatar. They played pretty late. Time difference.
I didn't know that, but thanks for bringing it to my attention.
And they played till 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's maybe because it's really hot.
It is late. Yeah, I don't. That seems like I try to get my bedtime at 8. So not an NBA slate though. This is actually right. You could probably make the case that you could. Well, if you're stacking this first game, I'll let you kind of get into it.
It's funny. It's a weird one because the way this slate goes, and I tend to not like to play a bunch of players early. But my favorite game is at 7 o'clock. We did get news for Washington. Barton's going to be out, which isn't a big deal, but now Washington's down to just 9 bodies. Porzingis is going to give it a go. I believe there's 6 teams in the front of a back-to-back, Washington being one of them. Washington, Brooklyn, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Minnesota, Utah. Nobody on the back end of a back-to-back. There's really no screaming values. Just kind of checking out our lineup HQ stuff. There's certainly some value plays. There's plenty of good plays. I feel like the builds today are mid to upper tier, and Luka and Giannis playing against each other. Nobody's playing those guys. Good luck. We live in a world with salary cap. I don't know how you're making that stuff work. And 13K as opposed to 10K is such a huge difference. It's more a DK conversation, I suppose, but FanDuel, even there, the prices are hiked up a little bit more. It's just I'm playing DK today, and Luka and Giannis is really, really hard to get to. I'm pulling it up right now, TJ. TJ, you're focusing on FanDuel today. Bobby will focus on DK. Feel free to cross over, obviously, and jump over if something else stands out to you. But as of right now on DK, we have 3 players that are projected to like 6x, basically. And that's barely 6x. That's Bogdan Bogdanovic. He's super cheap. Daniel Gafford, which is like that's kind of fragile, but okay, he's cheap. And Mitch Robb. And that's it. And, Bobby, does that excite you? They're good plays, I guess. But there's no like screaming values that like you just jam in and just.
Everyone's dealing with the same stuff, Dean, right? So
yeah,
it's not the greatest, but we got to work with it.
But that's like, I mean, are you running a bunch of lineups? Or are you getting Giannis or Luka on DK?
No, you're not getting. I feel like it's more of a middling construction. Like there's a ton of plays in this mid range that I'd rather play before I get there. So yeah, not getting a ton of Giannis or Luka.
Yeah, and some other good like stuff might open up, but like I don't know if there's any screaming values that may open up. Maybe if Darren Fox doesn't go, Davion Mitchell might project pretty well. We probably will. Yeah. Donovan Mitchell is out with a leg. Like Garland would get a bump. He's already looking fine as is. Conley, we're expecting him back tonight. Hunter is questionable for Atlanta. Atlanta, of course, without Murray as well. Both LeBron and Davis are expected to go. Anything else as far as news? We'll see. If
we have Steven Adams news, did we get that? Is he?
That's questionable. And like if he doesn't go, what Clark could be really interesting. And I don't know if he would start or not. Probably, possibly, maybe. But I think Brandon Clark would be pretty popular. What's your thoughts, TJ, as far as the slate overall before we kind of break it down game by game? And how do you feel about the value? Because for a 10 gamer, there's not a lot that's like, oh man, there's just hammer this, hammer that. This guy's going to 9x. I don't really see it.
Yeah, not a lot right now. And that's the kind of tough thing with it is for building lineups at the moment, why I'm not running 150 out here today, but why in one, it does kind of make you want to leave a lot of spots open for later in the day because Atlanta's going to have some glaring value if DeAndre Hunter is out. If De'Aaron Fox is out, we're going to see value open up. If Steven Adams is out, we're going to see value open up. And even if it doesn't happen, even if we don't get that value, I think my favorite thing to do is kind of make a mid-tier build with just a couple players in these first games and then kind of load up on some of the, I really like the Minnesota-Utah game later. Sacramento-Cleveland could be coming super, super interesting. So, it's tough because these 7:00 games are interesting as well, but I'm going to do my best to leave as many positions open for later so that I can do some adjusting throughout because like you said, like at the moment, we really don't have all that much value and it's a heck of a lot less on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. Like, yes, there's some of those prices of the studs are less expensive on DraftKings, but it's just like there's no value on FanDuel. You sort by the RG value right now, and the highest RG value on the entire slate on FanDuel is Mason Plumlee. Second is Trae Young. Third's Clint Capella. Fourth is Markelle Fultz, who we're projecting for 40% ownership over there right now. Like,
you feel good about those names?
Not even a little bit. Like I can tell you on a single entry, I'm not playing Markelle Fultz at 40% ownership. So I'm just going to wait and hope that some value opens up. And if it doesn't, I'm going to stick in my mid tier.
Give it a refresh, by the way. Fultz is the number one guy as far as point per dollar. Then Plumlee, then Capella, then Mikal Bridges, Bogdanovich. I wonder if we get a minutes bump out of him today. I mean, maybe they get like to 27 or 28 if Hunter's out. He's going to shoot a lot in the absence of Murray. It's just his deal is like he's just coming back and they're kind of babying him to some degree. He's 4-1 on DK, which I think he's worth talking about.
I don't have to give a refresh, Dean, because I said RG value, not point per dollar.
You know what? I have to get a Q-tip. Touche. My bad. Producer Devin in chat, what decibel does the value have to be at for it to be screaming? Yeah, so for it to be screaming, it's got to be like, if you're like 3 or 4K, like 8 or 9X. That's screaming, I think. Right? Is that fair to say?
I think 8.5, 8.6, maybe, depending on the site that you look at, is the range that it switches to screaming. Like, I think 7 to 8 is like yelling value, and then like 8.6 is where it hits screaming.
Is there anything after screaming, like ludicrous? What's the equivalent of ludicrous speed when it comes to screaming?
Infinite, just infinite value.
Infinite value. We don't really have that. Again, stuff may change. You mentioned Sacramento, like if Fox hits, it's like there's so many guys in that team. I mean, there's gonna be some bumps for sure, but they certainly have the bodies to fill it. Like Monk would get a bump, and I guess Herter and Terrence Davis, but I don't think there's one clear guy. I think it'd be Mitchell would be the best option. Probably throw him out there. But all right, we'll talk it through, and things will come up organically as well, I imagine, with the news flow. Checking out Twitter before we kind of get started. News-wise, if anything is of note, not really. Nope. It's ominously quiet when in the association. Maybe all the NBA they were watching the World Cup, so now they're going to get back and like figure out and fill out their updates as far as whose body parts are hurting or not. But stay tuned. Stuff will fall for sure. Anything else, Bobby, before we kind of dig in and break this down game by game?
No, I think he kind of hit it on the head. Like people are going to be gravitating to this first game. And if we get news later on, like a lot of the stuff in this first game that's kind of popping, they kind of negatively correlate. So I think that you can take a chance if you're basically not going crazy in the first game and try to get that news with Brandon Clark, or if Jalen Johnson or De'Aaron Fox would be out, it'd be Mitchell. Like you can just take your chances in tournaments. I'd definitely have like exposure to the first game, but just be cognizant of who you're playing. When
you say the first game, by the way, there's 3 games at 7:00. Which one are you talking about? Because I love
the Knicks, the one that all the exposure, the Knicks and Charlotte.
Okay, but it's also worth noting, and we'll talk about it. That game looks better on DK than it does on FanDuel. It's not bad on FanDuel, but it's glaring.
Charlotte's like very underpriced, and on DK as opposed to FanDuel.
I love that game, and I'm surprised is it getting pumped up throughout the day, because when I was on the expert survey, I was like, that's my favorite spot as far as just like a game stack, and it goes against everything I believe because I don't like game stacking 7:00 games, but that's kind of where we're at. I think we're going to do it. We'll see, but let's knock out Toronto or Orlando first. That's a 7:00 game. 222.5 is the total there. Orlando 8-point dogs here. As far as the body parts, Toronto fully healthy with the exception of players that don't really matter. Otto Porter, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, Precious Achiuwa. Orlando, they still have some pieces out, but prices have adjusted. Suggs is still out, Harris, Okeke, Carter. But, otherwise they are healthier than they've been of late, I guess we can say. I'll throw this one to the Canadians. Sure, why not? TJ, they're your Raptors. We know those minutes are rock solid. The matchup's pretty good. The tricky part is there's really no values here. They're just good. They're fine. What do you think of Toronto?
The top 4 guys, Siakam, Van Vliet, Barnes, and Anunoby, are basically never players, except for maybe Scotty Barnes when everybody's healthy. But these aren't really ever guys you want to X out of your player pool if you're running 150 lineups. The ownership we're projecting on them right now, like on DraftKings, on FanDuel, 7% Barnes and Anunoby, 10% Siakam. I'd probably be even to the field there if I was running 150. The one I'd want to get significantly over the weights on would be Fred VanVleet. 7-8 on FanDuel's got a 50, 60-point ceiling, and I'm looking to stay in the mid-range today, and so I think he'd be a very interesting way of doing that. He's got a bit more ownership on DraftKings at that cheaper price, but I do think he is still a strong play over there. And then like Gary Trent Jr. is a potential value on DraftKings, but not somebody you'd want to play on FanDuel. And then on the Orlando side, it's kind of the same thing. Like a bunch of players, Banchero, Bol, Mo, not Franz, but Mo Wagner, that I'd want to play in MMEs, but nobody I really want to get to in a single entry, other than, of course, the cash game option, Markelle Fultz, but at this ownership right now, I think I want to be significantly underweight there in tournaments.
That's an outrageous number on FanDuel. This may change. I think ownership is not corrected or been updated since noon, if I'm saying that. So I'd imagine there's an update coming in soon, but 40% on a 10 gamer, and there's a lot of good guards tonight. TJ, that's outrageous. Oh, you know what? We just got an update. I hit refresh. Let's see where it's at now. It can't be 40%, can it? It's still 40%. What? Why?
There's no value right now, and
yeah,
people are just going to play the value in the first game of the night, and like he likely will have a great point per dollar game. I'm just kind of hoping that it's not enough to, like, it's not a 10x type game. It's just a 25 to 30 point game. And then if it's the type of game like he had last night where he just doesn't make a basket and so he stops shooting, then that's how you all of a sudden have a huge leg up on everybody else in tournaments. But just since I'm playing the one lineup and I'm doing a couple, I still throw those in the large field stuff as well. But in the somewhat higher dollar stuff that I'm playing today, not playing anything crazy. I think $100 is the largest single entry. But in that, I'm really hoping that Markelle Fultz is even higher than the 40%. Like, I'm hoping it just is like let's lock in this value, and he's 70% owned in a smaller field contest like that, because to me that just is the easiest tournament fade on the slate.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think that's a pretty good call. You said he's going to be a good point per dollar player. He hasn't been spectacular this year, like 0.81, I believe. So, he's fine.
It's just the price that makes that pretty good. Like, not necessarily point per minute, but point per dollar. Like you said, he's the highest projected point per dollar play on the slate. I can't tell you he's just in a vacuum a bad play, but for that ownership on such a large slate, to me, that's an easy fade.
Yeah, somebody has to be. It's him. I mean, I would bet that at some point by the time the slate tips off, it's not going to be him. Somebody else is going to pop up, I'm guessing. We'll see. Stay tuned. Bobby, your thoughts as far as this game? Obviously, you're focusing more on DK. The Fultz thing is not as goofy over there. He's 4.8. The ownership on him is 15%. Even that might be a tick too high for me. I'm probably not going to have a ton. I'm just hoping he doesn't smash. Otherwise, FVB is getting 12%. Trent is pretty cheap, but he's been probably the most volatile amongst the Toronto starters, least reliable. Love Pascal, but if I have one big spend, is it him? I'm not sure. Love him, though. Where are you at as far as Toronto, Orlando?
Yeah, so I actually have some interest in this game. I like Fultz a little bit. I think he's a good play. And FEV and Siakam, I think are guys that I want to get to. FEV's at 7K, Siakam's at 10K. I think what's FEV's price? He's 7K. So I don't mind having exposure to those guys, because I think everyone's going to have exposure to basically the Knicks and Charlotte. And I also think, like, Banchero, if you're trying to, I don't know, like, Oubre grades out fantastic, but it is the first game, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like Banchero could slide into that shooting guard, small forwards, like in some lineups with Siakam and Van Fleet. I also like Mo Wagner. I think he's interesting. Franz Wagner. So I think I'm going to have more of the field in this game than the majority, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
I'll say too, that's pretty contingent to DraftKings where you're playing today, right? The interest in somebody like a Markelle Fultz. If he was 40% plus, like, would you want to be playing him on Fanduel today?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, same page for me. I think he's a strong player on DraftKings.
Yeah.
Well, you're playing cash. You throw Fultz in your cash lineup, TJ, on Fanduel? I assume so, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got anything else here? We're moving on, right? All right. Let's talk about that game. New York and Charlotte, 224 is a total. New York is a 3-point favorite on the road here in Charlotte. As far as the body parts, usual suspects for Charlotte are still out. LaMelo and Hayward. PJ Washington expect to be fine with his eye. New York is without Obi Toppin, which is kind of sort of somewhat important for Julius Randle because he's his direct backup. So maybe he gets an extra minute or two, up to like 40 or 41. We'll see. Stay tuned. But like this game is just beautiful in a sense that the minutes are rock solid. Like Charlotte, Rozier and Oubre are getting like 40 minutes a night. They're so thin over there, of course. And New York, we know how rock solid the minutes are for guys like Randall. Mitch Rob, the minutes have been coming up as well. Brunson, every starter in this game is like playable to me to various degrees. I'll throw it to you, Bobby, but like I really like this 7 o'clock game, and yeah, it's a bit of a pickle as far as it being at 7 o'clock, and maybe better stuff comes, but it seems really strong to me. I don't like the fact that I'm hearing that the field apparently is on it as well. It kind of bums me out.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like Kelly Oubre seeing like 38 to 40 minutes. Like it's tough to get away from that. But on the other side of that, like Rozier seeing less ownership negatively correlates with Oubre. So if Rozier's firing, he could hurt Oubre. In the same sense, like PJ Washington, Jalen McDaniels, these wings, I think I'm going to do max 2 of 3, Oubre, Washington, and McDaniels, because they all eat into each other. On the other side, like Mitch Robinson and Randall, for Mitch to really hit I really like Mitch tonight. It's a good spot versus Charlotte. For him to hit his ceiling, like maybe Randall doesn't – it's 79 – Randall's cheap for what it's worth. Like he's 7,900, but – like for Mitch to get somewhere where I want to win a tournament, which I think I'm going to be overexposed to Mitch, like at 5K, Mitch himself negatively correlates with Oubre, McDaniels, Washington, and Randall all in the same game. So like backloading, I think makes sense. Like I'll have exposure to all these guys, but I'm not like overloading and game stacking, which I think people are going to try to do here.
Nick's a good opponent to fire threes against. One thing I found interesting, I don't know if you guys ever look at the NBA defense versus archetype matchup tool. We're kind of at the point in the season where we're getting
Oubre has the worst matchup.
Yeah, well, what's interesting, and also Grimes has been awesome. Like if you want to do that, like Grimes has been locking people down of late. I assume that's why he's playing 40 minutes a night. He's playing pretty well defensively, but also you can fire threes against New York. It's like macro versus micro. And not just Oubre having the worst matchup. If you call him, now this isn't like point guards. This isn't like small forwards. You're labeling the guys what they do. And we're calling Oubre a scoring wing. It's the worst matchup for scoring wings. Oh, Claxton is out. That's interesting. We'll talk about that in a second. Maybe Ben Simmons becomes pretty interesting. But it's his first game back. I'm curious how that's going to go down. Rozier, if you call him a combo guard, which is a combo guard, the absolute best matchup here, TJ. So the Charlotte side, if you're going to buy this, Rozier is the best matchup in basketball for combo guards against New York. Worst matchup for Oubre. I still am going to play Oubre. I hear you. I hear you. I'm reading this. The archetype, but I still think the 40 minutes. Like, give me 40 minutes in this environment. I'll take my chances. Your read, TJ, as far as the Hornets first.
Yeah, I think both Oubre and Rozier are good plays. They're both 7,800, the same price on FanDuel. Rozier is actually getting about 10% more ownership right now. That'll probably be closer together. I think they're both strong plays. It scares me that in my one lineup, I am likely going to be underweight on this crew. Like they're kind of a group that if I have 2 spots left in my lineup and it fits a Nick and a Hornet, I'm definitely not going to be changing it. But I do want to be able to backload my lineup a little bit here. So I'm probably going to be underweight on these guys. And this is the game that it scares me the most that I'm going to be underweight on. I'd be getting a lot more of them if I'd be playing more lineups. The guys like Mason Plumlee and Jalen McDaniels, who are pushing 30% ownership on FanDuel, I would try and be underweight on those guys while still making sure I'm even with the field or have a little bit more on Rozier and Oubre. And Washington is another one at 22%. I'd probably be a little underweight on. And then on the Knicks side of things, like I would just way rather play Mitchell Robinson at 11% than Mason Plumlee at 30% on FanDuel. Like that's just 10 times out of 10. I'd rather play the Mitch Rob side. Julius Randle looks good, but at over 20% above 8K over there, that does frighten me a little bit. Emmanuel Quickley is actually looking like a somewhat chalky value play. I don't think I'm going to go there. Because Brunson's so low owned in tournaments, if I was playing a lot of lineups, I'd try and get overweight there. But like I said, I'm not going to have a lot of exposure here, and that does frighten me.
That Plumlee number is that's a massive number. 30% ownership on FanDuel. I get the price is pretty good at 5.5, but how often does Plumlee break the slate? Famous last words. I like him, sure. Man, you think he's going to hit your lineup or no? It sounds like a no if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah, I don't think so. Like for me, I'm looking at probably a mostly fade of these 7 o'clock games, except for probably the one we're about to talk about.
Yeah, Chris in chat says, would it be viable for tournaments to totally skip the 7 o'clock game? I mean, if you're playing one lineup, you can, I guess. But if you're playing like 10 lineups, no. Like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend that. TJ, you said scary, but yes. I assume we're talking one lineup, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just I think that's worth noting.
And still, I don't think I'm going to be full fading it. I think I'm going to be playing people in this Washington-Indiana game.
Yeah, and just don't make any plans, unfortunately. Like, be ready to pivot, be ready to adjust lineups, anticipate what may happen down the line.
Well, but like a lot of this adjusting we're going to have to do too will be doable probably maybe before lock, but probably immediately after lock when it comes to De'Aaron Fox and DeAndre Hunter, those guys right at 7:30. Like that's going to be very helpful for us for kind of the rest of building, because if we get Fox or Hunter out, that opens up a ton of value for us.
I'll put that question on layaway because I don't necessarily agree with that premise. If Hunter's out, like you're gonna need the Holiday brothers that don't matter. It's gonna be stuff that's filled in. Like it's just gonna be like Young is gonna look better. Somebody you're already interested in.
What about Jalen Johnson?
Jalen Johnson and AJ Griffin become both super interesting.
Yeah. What's Jalen Johnson?
I think like you're saying, okay.
Jalen Johnson's $3,800, and if Griffin's out and Johnson's starting, I would say he is the best value on the slate.
If Jalen Johnson starts and Hunter's out?
Yeah, when he would, if Hunter is out, Jalen Johnson would be the guy going into the starting lineup. At $3,800 on DraftKings, I think he would
start right now.
But that still takes out how many minutes do we have projecting Hunter for? 32. And so like you take that 32 minutes off, probably
Culver, Aaron Holiday,
8 of them are going to be going to Jalen Johnson.
Gets minutes. Like they'll get a piece, like a little bit, but
Aaron Holiday, Jarrett Culver, Bogdan Bogdanovic, AJ Griffin, they all kind of play the same position, and Jalen Johnson's the only one who plays 4 in that situation. And so a DeAndre Hunter would be the one who plays 4 in that lineup. So if you remove him, he's literally the only power forward they have left. Their only other bigs on their team are Clint Capella and Okongwu.
You don't need any more bigs against Brooklyn, especially when Claxton's rolled out.
So then who's guarding Kevin Durant?
I don't know.
You're going to have somebody who's 6'5" guarding Kevin Durant?
I think, who are they going to throw? That's a good question.
And it would also make Jarrett Culver a very interesting value play because he's a super lengthy guard who has actually been doing well since he got to Atlanta. So he'd be a super interesting value play if we got him as well. Like this is,
they all can't be interesting. These guys are all, none of them are like big usage guys. Like if you got 25 minutes out of Culver, you're excited. Yeah. Maybe. He's okay. I guess maybe
we have 0 value on this slate, and he's 3,700.
You're going to be tilting your face off with Aaron Holiday and Justin Holiday and anybody else named Holiday in this team. There's just 2 Holidays, but yeah, it's a good conversation to have though. But yeah,
you're making me swap over to DraftKings on my lineup HQ so I can adjust some minutes here and see how that affects Atlanta because. Assuming that we take out DeAndre Hunter, which would also impact usage for everybody else, change it to, would you agree, 35 minutes for Jalen Johnson? That adds 7 to his projection.
I don't think I would agree with that, no. But maybe. I mean, I'll yield to the projection team on that. I think that's a little bit ambitious. Again, I think the opponent matters also, and they have plenty of bodies. It's not.
So they don't have plenty of bodies who are big, though. And so let's say we make it a 33-minute projection. Kevin Durant, 6'11". They need somebody to guard him, Dean. Like they have to have that.
Okay, so you're saying that.
Let's say 33 minutes for Jalen Johnson. 33. 26 minutes for Jarrett Culver, because if we're not projecting more minutes for Jalen Johnson, then it would have to be Jarrett Culver as the only other lengthy defender who would be able to do that. Let's go AJ Griffin up to 36 minutes. And that would have us with Jalen Johnson being one of those 6X players that you were referring to now on the slate. He'd be the second best value on the slate on DraftKings. And
Hunter's gonna get rolled in like in 3 seconds after all these conversations.
And AJ Griffin is now 5.7 points per minute, 5.7 point per dollar, and that's without adding the usage bump that they would receive without DeAndre Hunter. It only adds
Trae Young is getting the usage bump. That's who's getting the usage bump. He's going to shoot every shot.
I mean, okay, but there's still a bunch of other guys to clean up misses and get assists. Like, it's no value when we'd see people who get 5 and 6x their salaries. They'd be immediately some of the best point per dollar picks on DraftKings.
That's why I think
Bogdanovich already is the second best point per dollar play on DraftKings, and that would add to his projection.
How much more can he play? I think he's interesting more so than Culver, who averages less than 0.8 fantasy points per minute. And again, the holidays are going to play. You don't want to roster them. I don't know. It'll be a good conversation, and we'll see. I'm curious about what happens when
one week ago today, they were without DeAndre Hunter and DeJounte Murray, and Jarrett Culver played 32 minutes and had 29 fantasy points.
Was Bogdanovich in that game?
Yes, one of them. One of the two he was. The other one he wasn't. He had 29 and 28 fantasy points in those 2 games.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, that's one game. And Johnson's not this great fantasy point minute player as well, for what it's worth. And also, Brooklyn just might wallop Atlanta. We'll see.
Last 2 games that DeAndre Hunter was out, he had 22.75 and 32 fantasy points for Jalen Johnson.
Well, you know what? Is that your lock in Johnson right now?
If I was playing on DraftKings and DeAndre Hunter was out, I would be making a rule that I would have at least one of Jalen Johnson, Bogdanovich, and Culver in every one of my lineups.
Bobby, we got to move on, but I'm curious if you have any thoughts on this conversation.
Yeah, I like Jalen Johnson if he's ruled out. Like Clint Capella, just I think it's a really good spot for him. Trae Young's, he's a very, very strong usage bump. With Murray out, I think those 3 guys are probably the main guys. I think Bogey's the best value currently. And yeah, that's about it.
Just looking at Brooklyn's bigs, Simmons we're projecting to start at the 5, and then I guess Durant would be the 5, I think, the backup 5, and Atlanta
pretty much at all times like Jalen Johnson even more because that means Clint Capella might end up not closing.
Well, no, I don't think that's going to – I think Capella and Okongwu was definitely split the 48, I think.
What if Durant closes at the 5?
Well, Simmons will be out there.
So if he brings up the ball, they'll have Capella up there picking him up when he's playing point guard?
No, Capella will be on – I'm not sure. That's a good question, but, we're not even on that game yet. Why are we talking about Atlanta, Brooklyn? We got to reel this back in. But final thoughts as far as New York, Charlotte. It sounds like I like him more than everybody. I especially like him on DK, a little bit less on FanDuel. Your favorite play?
Love the projections, Dean. That's why you love. They get all the minutes. All these Charlotte guys, all the Knicks. I get it. It's NBA, right?
I mean, minutes. I'm told somebody wants minutes equal money.
Minutes equal money. No, yeah, correct. No,
not all minutes are created equal. Like some of these minutes.
I'm playing these guys for what it's worth. I think you have to be careful with how you play them.
Well, what sort of rules? I know you talk about some rules for Charlotte. You have any New York rules?
I'm not New York rules.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm playing the $15 maxing it. I don't want Mitch and Randall hitting the same lineup because I really like Mitch. And I think if he basically is to hit a ceiling, he's going to hurt Randall's ceiling. I know Randall's cheap at 7,900, but for him to hit that situation where I want to win a tournament, I think Mitch Rob legitimately, just the way he gets points and all the value in this on the Charlotte side gets points. He hurts everyone if he hits his ceiling pretty much. So he's the guy I'm looking to get to the most.
Well, it's a weird thing because he can get points through blocks, which doesn't hurt anybody. And he get points through, rebounds.
Rebounds.
Yeah,
and then
Yeah,
Oubre, Washington, and McDaniels. And Randall. They're all trying to. If he goes if he hits like his 99% outcome, he's the guy that hurts everyone the most. So,
DJ, did you open up a Labatt over there? What the chat's talking about? You open up a beer? Did this conversation bring you to drink?
I asked Devin before I said all I got in my house right now is water and beer. Can I have a beer on GrindersLive? And he said Roth more than opened up that to be allowed. And then I said, well, if I didn't need it before that conversation, I needed it after.
Well, it's a healthy debate is good.
Yeah, no, 100%. The chat was ramped up
the whole time. What's fun about that?
The chat was ramped up, so I was just giving the people what they wanted.
And the chalk is Labatt. In my head at least. I think a Canadian beer. I think Labatt. Is that what it is, or it's something else off the board, like a Molson? What is that? Yeah, I need help.
Bud Light Lime.
Oh, jeez, do better, TJ. Has it been a rough month? But
I told you I've been trying to win these contests, and I keep coming short.
Bobby, you want to chime in on the Bud Light Lime? Is that are you a fan or?
I think when you drink, like the first one's good, and then you drink a couple of them, and it's like you're drinking piss. That's my take.
Doesn't it normally go the other way, like progressively?
I used to drink them in high school, and then I realized that, and I just stopped drinking.
I also don't like beer, so I'm very limited.
Well, then why? Okay, why have a beer in the household?
I have my wife likes beer.
So I have like this beer store like that opened up across the street from my house. I've always been like just drink Bud Light and Budweiser.
Yeah.
And they're like Corona, and they have none of that basically. It's all like beer snob stuff.
That's me. Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm being very snobby.
I like sours a good bit. Do you like sours, Dean?
No, and the whole IPA bit is not for me either. But yeah, I'm very specific. But yeah,
what do you like to drink?
I'll go to the bartender and like just give me like the darkest thing you have. Sometimes not as dark as like a Guinness though, because that can be pretty heavy. But and to be fair, I haven't had
though. Guinness is very smooth.
What's a Yingling Black and Tan is probably one of my go-tos. That's what I like.
Yeah.
All right.
See, I don't really like beer, but I do enjoy a sour or like a Guinness on occasion.
Sours are good, man. You should try get some sours, Dean.
I don't know if I've ever had a sour before. They're try one. I'll give it a shot. You got a recommendation?
I'm drinking the one I have in my fridge. I forget the name. They just all have weird name. Like it's so difficult picking them out too. I have to ask the guy for help, and he just looks at me like I'm retarded. Oh, I can't say that on the show. Sorry.
Is it like actually sour? I assume does it taste sour? I don't know. Is that, or is it just called that for some reason?
It tastes sour. Yeah, it's got a nice sour like aftertaste.
All right. I will dabble. I'll give it a shot one of these days. Let's move on, I suppose. Love the New York Charlotte game, and obviously ownership's going to flock there to some degree. It's going to be more popular on DK. The third game that's going down at 7:00 will also be popular for reasons. Washington versus Indiana, 234.5 is a total. Washington 4-point dog here in a good game environment for sure. Washington is without many players. Porzingis is going to play, but Barton is out, and Beal is out, and Hachimura is out. And it looks like they're down to 9 players, if I'm getting this correct. As far as Indiana, some questionables. We don't know about Miles Turner just yet, or Isaiah Jackson. Jalen Smith expected to be fine, not in the injury report with his knee, but potentially they could be thin on the inside with a couple of those big bodies. TJ, I'll throw it to you. How much are you prioritizing Washington? Because we were touching on some of the 6X players, and I think Denny Avdia is one that's kind of sort of right there, and Monte Morris. Again, on a 10-game slate, these are names you typically aren't thrilled about, but they make stuff work and they're pretty cheap. Start with Washington.
As it stands right now, I think Denny Avdia is probably the best value on DraftKings. If we get some injury news, that might change, but Avdia would probably be my favorite one there as it stands right now. I think Porzingis is a very interesting play in tournaments. I think Kyle Kuzma is a fantastic play, especially on FanDuel at 7,500. In this early slate of games, he's probably my favorite to go with here. He disappointed people a little bit yesterday, but or 2 days ago, when he was somewhat chalk on FanDuel, but that's such a great price. Daniel Gafford, I'd still play quite a bit of on DraftKings where he's 3,600, even though Porzingis is in on FanDuel where he's 53, I'm not going to be touching him. Whereas I was very interested in him if Porzingis was going to be out. And then the last player I'm somewhat interested in this game as well is like, if you're running a ton of lineups, never mind. Corey Kispert is expensive over on DraftKings, so never mind. But like Jordan Goodwin, I think is an interesting value if you're running a ton of lineups, but that's about it. Kispert, if he's a last piece and you're running 150 on FanDuel at 3,900, like there are worse things you can do, but I would just rather wait and hope that more value opens up.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of overlap with Porzingis and Gafford, not a ton, but more so of late. which I guess is worth noting. But again, I mean, on a 10-game slate, am I jumping in to play a guy that's going to play maybe 19, 20, 21 minutes? I get that's where we're kind of at, but that's why I'm restricted, I think, as far as spending up on stuff. Bobby, where are you at as far as the Washington value plays? Or just Washington in general?
Yeah, I think Denny is the one that I want to get to. Pretty good history in this situation. Then you're taking Barton out. Makes a ton of sense. I think Gafford is in play also. I like all these. I like Porzingis. I like Kuzma. And I like running it back too, which is like there's some value on the like Halliburton is probably one of my favorite plays on the slate. I feel like I'm going to be significantly overweight on him.
It's probably not hard to be, right? I'm guessing he's 10% or so. Let me see if we can pull it up.
Yeah, he's
not going to grab a ton.
Yeah, I like Halliburton in the spot, 9,200. Seems like fit how construction's going. Seems like it's middling. If I'm paying up for a stud, like I think Halliburton works. Miles Turner's in a very good spot. Jalen Smith, I think he is interesting. Someone has a Q tag in this Indy situation, correct? Like there's something.
So Miles Turner and Isaiah Jackson are both questionable right now.
Yeah, second though, if those guys get ruled out, like I want a lot of Jalen Smith.
And Isaiah and O'Shea Brissett.
And O'Shea Brissett. Yeah, I think that those are Jalen Smith would become a very good play in my opinion if those guys are out.
Yeah, if both are out, it's really interesting. Obviously, they'll be super thin on the inside. As far as fantasy points per minute, like Jalen Smith is over a fantasy point minute this season. Isaiah Jackson's another good fantasy point minute guy, 1.05 on DK, 1.11 on Fanduel. Brissett not as appealing, 0.8, 0.81. But curious to see how that goes down. And we should know. If we don't know, the Crunch Time crew will know because that's a 7:00 game. TJ,
that's another one similar to the Atlanta situation. If we get guys out that I'd be playing, I'd set a rule on DraftKings and probably FanDuel too, actually. If Turner and Jackson are both out, I'm playing one of Jalen Smith or O'Shea Brissett in every lineup.
In the chat, Steven's asking,
who would you prioritize? I feel like you'd prioritize Smith before Brissett. I know Brissett's been chucking for what it's worth.
I'd probably prioritize. I'd prioritize from a raw point standpoint, definitely Jalen Smith. It's just with how little value we have on this slate. Like if we're going to get 30 minutes of Brissett, you kind of have to prioritize him at that below 4K price tag.
Yeah, they're both really cheap on DK. Brissett's 3.6 and Johnson, not Johnson. So
who would you rather in a vacuum if you got the news from Atlanta, Jalen Johnson or Brissett?
Probably Brissett.
Oh, really? Wow. I think I'd take Johnson.
I'd play both though.
The way you were talking, I thought Johnson was going to put up like a 50 burger. That's how I was hearing it. Well,
let's see if I put in. It still won't really work because it still has. How like Turner and Jackson's usage and stuff in there, but if you give O'Shea Brissett 32 minutes, he projects for 24.74 on FanDuel, and if I give that to,
is this if two guys are out? You're talking if Turner and Jackson are out?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of a reach, but yeah, I hear you.
Pretty darn close to the same play.
Yeah.
Jalen Johnson and O'Shea Brissett would be like basically identical projections, I think.
Let's see. Anything else of note that we should kind of point out? Yeah, in chat they're talking about playing Gafford and Zinger together. I don't know about that. Again, they've crossed over a little bit, but not enough. I don't think I play them together in the same lineup. TJ, you have a thought on that?
I don't think I would either, no, unless I was running a game stack. But even still, like I'd rather do Kuzma, Porzingis, and other cheap plays, or like as opposed to those two guys specifically.
All right, the chat's saying I've officially mushed Jalen Johnson before we even got to that game. Fair enough. I hear you. Anything else here we should talk about here, Bobby, as far as Washington and Indiana? Washington, again, is going to draw a fair bit. We mentioned Kuzma in passing. He's certainly worth a look. It is interesting. Like, they have 9 players, and Taj Gibson's one of those 9 players. Anthony Gill is another name.
We didn't really hit on Monty Morris. He's in my player pool. He's a guy like I'd rather just play. I think I'd rather have Fultz.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Like Fultz is 4,800 and then Morris is 53. He's in my player pool because I'm playing 150. But if I had to choose between the two, it would be Fultz for me.
Do you have any rules for Washington?
Not currently. I have to think through them because I don't know. Avide looks really good in this spot, so he's I don't know. Avide would be the guy. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Kuzma and Porzingis. I don't know. Just looking at who negatively correlates Porzingis. The biggest negative correlation with Porzingis is Avide. And then Kuzma. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to really get to that. I haven't really thought through it. I was more on the Knicks.
Mr. Richard in chats reminding us about Buddy. I mean, I'm Buddy Hield. You can kind of sort of always play him, and you catch the right 3-point variance. I don't think I'm prioritizing Buddy Hield. I don't make a ton of lineups. Would he be in my 150 pool? Probably, but I'm not excited. He's fine. He's fine. I shouldn't besmirch. He's got a fair price in the mid tier. Anything here as far as Hield? Anybody else have notes here, TJ, or shall we move on?
No, I think we can move on.
Buddy grades out really poorly in the DV defense first archetype for what it's worth. He's right down there with Oubre.
Is Washington good at not giving up threes? That seems like a good question to ask. They are middle of the road. All right. But not shocked at all. Producer Devin, hipster du jour, he said he had a delicious, I don't even know what this is, Venerio IPA from Jackalope Brewery. How hipster can Devin be? He just broke the hipster scale. That what was the adjective we used for describing value? I can't remember what it was now. What was the adjective? That's a screaming hipster is what I'm getting at. Congratulations, Devin. All right. We shall move on. Let's move on. That's the 7 o'clock games. Now we're into 7:30. I think this is the first half of the ESPN doubleheader. Lake Show in Philadelphia. 228 is the total. Lakers are 5-point dogs here. This is one of several games that I don't think I'm playing much of it. I'm curious to hear your guys' take. We're going to get LeBron back. We're going to get Davis back. Therefore, what matters? Not much as far as, you could play him, sure. If you have one big spend, I don't know. Can't imagine I'm getting there on one lineup. Philadelphia is reasonably healthy. Maxey obviously still out. Melton's good to go. Niang is out. Dan House is questionable. Not that big a deal. But, Bobby, we are getting low ownership. They're not going to be a lot of players rostered at the Lakers side with both LeBron and Davis expected to go. I'm okay with Harden. The Harden price, I think, is pretty interesting. It was nice to see him play a bunch of minutes there. I know it was double OT, but just good to know he was able to do it. And then Embiid, and otherwise, just kind of some fringe guys, I suppose. You tell me. What do you think of Lakers Philadelphia?
Yeah, so Harden is probably my favorite play from this game, and outside of that, I don't think I'm gonna have much exposure. The price tag for Harden at 8,900, I think it's good to take a shot. He also fits within this middling construction that we're kind of forced into with the lack of value. So he would be my favorite play. Outside of that, not much. You can always play Anthony Davis. But right now I currently don't have any of that. I have James Harden, and that's pretty much it.
It's Jackalope. Is that it? And I mispronounced that? The chat's giving me the business. Didn't know that. But yeah, that sounds more familiar now. Jackalope beer. Okay. Fair enough. My bad. Hey, TJ, you're not, this is your job. When you're on the Crunch Time show, you don't have to worry about it so much. But when you're on Grinders Live, you got to pump up the likes, use the sex, whatever you got to use to get it going. But yeah.
When I'm on Crunch Time, I don't have to worry about it. I come into Crunch Time 3-4 days a week and have to pump up all the likes you didn't get during Grinders Live. I got to worry about it extra on Crunch Time because I only got 30 minutes to pump up the likes instead of an hour and 20 here.
You like to like shame me.
We got 69 people watching. Nice. Hit the like button. I know more are going to tune in as we get closer to crunch time here, but slide your finger over there. Give it a hard press if that's what you're into. Give it a little tickle if that's what you're into. As anything that changes that little thumb from an unlike to a like, and let's get it done here, guys. Let's get that like button up because we want to keep our jobs. They're gonna fire Dean if we don't get enough likes here. So
That's maybe incentivizing, depending on how you feel about me. By the way, Ben Simmons, this is limited to 20 minutes tonight. That's interesting. I first came back. I guess that's not terribly surprising. Sometimes coaches lie, but I would imagine there is some sort of minutes limit for Simmons.
Is there does Seth Curry gain like any in this situation? He's at 3.6, seems super cheap.
So if the Brooklyn Nets, this is a somewhat close game, and the Brooklyn Nets close with Kyrie Irving, Seth Curry, Joe Harris, Royce O'Neal, and Kevin Durant. Those 5 guys. You want to tell me who Clint Capella's guarding, Dean?
No. Simmons is going to close. They're going to make sure he closes. The game is closed. Simmons is closing.
A 20-minutes limit?
We get the understand. Yes, that they're gonna like drag him along, and they're gonna let him close. They'll save enough time in this minutes constriction to let him close the game. I'm willing to wager dollars to donuts that Ben Simmons closes the game tonight, barring injury, barring blowout. Yes. They're not going to give him 20 minutes in the first half and say, all right, go shower up, kid. That's not the way it's going to work. And so he also, guess what? He might play 27 minutes.
Ben Simmons, the guy who famously doesn't close games because he can't shoot free throws, will be saved to close on a 20-minutes limit. But you're right. We've talked about this too much. Other than that, LA and Philly specifically, we did just get Danuel House ruled out as we were talking. If I'm running 150 lineups, I would make sure to get overweight on Anthony Davis and LeBron James, as well as Joel Embiid and James Harden, because nobody's playing them except for on DraftKings where people are getting Harden a little bit. But I'd get overweight on that entire crew if I was running 150, but nobody that I'm going to be playing if I'm only running one.
Bobby, Philadelphia, Lakers.
Ben Simmons will start.
It's good Harden for me. You can make a case for AD. Outside of that, I don't have much interest.
Yeah. I wish I had more. I wish I had some salary. Yuta Watanabe is on track to play. Donovan, that's another wing for Brooklyn. I feel like we've talked about that game already because, we haven't hit it just yet officially. Simmons, you said, will start. Oh, so he's going to play tonight and rest tomorrow. Maybe he plays more than 20. We'll see. 25. Around 20 minutes, for the record, is the official.
If you think of some kind of fun bet that we can make that whether or not Ben Simmons finishes this game, let's do it.
Well, here's the thing. Like, what if he plays the last 4 minutes, but 4 of the last 4.5 minutes, but he comes off the court because they're ahead and they don't want him to get the ball in an inbounds and foul. That's the spirit of the bet is he closed the game, but he didn't officially close the game. You know what I mean?
We will leave some room for interpretation on a push. Neither of us are going to try and screw each other here. I trust you. We'll leave some interpretation for a push if he's in and out to close the game based on free throws.
So Rod's got a question in chat for tiers that we don't care about salary when it comes to tiers. Anthony Davis, Luka, or Giannis? I'm guessing it's not Davis. It's probably Luka or Giannis. I haven't considered this. This is just raw points, TJ.
I think it's Luka.
Yeah,
Luka,
probably.
Yeah, Luka.
It's not I don't think it's Davis. Mr. Richardson's a B2 pricey on DK. Yeah, he's hard to get to. My takes tonight are like the Thelma and Louise gift. I don't know which gift that is. Is that going over the – should I give a spoiler? It's only been 33 years, Thelma and Louise. But going off the Grand Canyon or whatever it is. It's been a while. I haven't seen it in forever. We are moving on. Lakers and Philadelphia, not terribly interesting from a DFS perspective. Sacramento and Cleveland, this one could get interesting. It already is, but it can get very interesting if the injuries kind of go a certain way. We don't know about Cleveland and Donovan Mitchell. The update was there is no update. He's still questionable. We actually have an if-then. I was looking for an if-then for Atlanta and Hunter. Unfortunately, we didn't do that. They can only do so many. But if we see Mitchell out, we're projecting 47 DK points and 44 DK points for Garland. Kevin Love's out. D Wade's out as well. That's Dean Wade. LeVert, we're projecting for 27 DK points, 26 on FanDuel. But Garland is the play here. If Mitchell sits, we've seen him have his the limited times. When Mitchell's been out, he's run the show for sure. Love Garland. He's fine as is, Bobby. But if Mitchell sits, Garland might be one of the best upper to mid tier spends of the night.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Garland and Allen from the Cavaliers look like very good plays, just at their price points. On the other side, If Fox is out, who do we think is the value?
Well, this is the TJ question because I don't think it's. I think Mitchell's probably the best play amongst the bunch.
Is it good value?
Yeah. That's.
I'm DraftKings. It's beautiful.
I'm with
value.
Garland and I'm with Allen. I really like those plays.
So I think LeVert would be interesting on the Cleveland side too if we get Donovan Mitchell out. But I agree that Allen and Mitchell would still be my two biggest priorities. On the Sacramento side, I don't think I would touch this team if Fox is in. But if Fox is out and Terrence Davis is out, then like 32. I mean, Davis hasn't played in a long time now. But both of those guys listed as questionable. Like $3,200 Davion Mitchell would be fantastic chalk. 4K on FanDuel gets a little less exciting, but still a phenomenal play. He'll be in my lineup if De'Aaron Fox is out. And Malik Monk becomes a very, very interesting tournament play if Fox is out, and especially if both Davis and Fox are out.
So we do have an if-then if Fox sits, but I don't think it does have Davis baked in, which is kind of the problem, right? So if Fox sits and Davis plays, we're projecting like 20 DK points for Davion Mitchell, 20 for Murray, 18 for Davis. Like Dellavedova gets dusted off. KZ Okpala's in the rotation. You're not playing these guys, but we're giving 30 to Monk, which I think is what's Monk's price? He's probably one of the more interesting one. And Mitchell, not a good fantasy point minute player. You know, he's kind of a 3-and-D guy that's not a great 3, but a really good defensive player. Like 0.7 fantasy points per minute in the season, probably starts, maybe starts. We'll see. Monk would be the sixth man, I'm guessing. I don't know if I'd go beyond that. Monk is 5'4", so and Cleveland's a good defensive team, one of the best defensive teams in the league, if not the best defensive team. And Sabonis would get more usage, but do you want to mess with Mobley and Allen on the inside? A ton, not really, but he would have opportunities. So I'll give him that. Bobby, what do you got?
Malik Monk wouldn't really be going inside much, though. He's a shooter. Like, this is a guy that even with De'Aaron Fox in the lineup and these guys healthy, in 3 of his last 5 games, he's gone over 30 fantasy points.
Yeah, I'm fine with Monk. 5'4", he's fine. Like, we're probably going to project around 30 points or so if that kind of falls that way. Usable.
Yeah.
And Mitchell is usable, but not a screaming value, I don't think, but usable.
Yeah, I agree with Dean.
Did you give your thoughts, Bobby, as far as Cleveland? You talked about Garland.
Allen and Garland. I wouldn't play Mitchell and Garland together if Mitchell's ruled in.
Yeah, if Mitchell's rolled in and if Fox is rolled in, this game becomes very uninteresting to me. Fox is like active.
Fox and Davis both rolled out.
What do we have?
Fox and Davis both out.
Okay. So, yeah.
Davion Mitchell will be a core play. I bet you Davion Mitchell is one of Meadsy's core plays.
On DK at least.
I think he's screaming value.
So the more I think about it, TJ might be correct.
Well, I mean, look, he's going to be 3-2, and he's going to now with Davis.
There's no value. He has to be
yes.
He's a 3,200
right now to salary savers.
Like he's a $3,200. He's a $3,200 salary saving point guard who's going to play 30+ minutes. Averages over 20 minutes a game right now, even with De'Aaron Fox in. Like just 2 games ago, Fox is in. He had 30 fantasy points in 24 minutes.
Do you want a bigger sample? He's 0.69 the fantasy points per minute in the season. That's not nice.
Isn't it?
0.69 is not good. You think that's
good? At 3.2K when you're playing 34 minutes,
I know.
I'm
not arguing against. I'm just saying this is not like he's not going to. I think the offense is going to run through Sabonis. I think he's not going to go out there and like be a point guard and run the show. And like Monk's going to come on and take a bunch of shots. He's going to be on the court for 30 minutes though, I think. And I'm going to play him, and he's probably going to get like 24 points, which is fine. I think. Like 24 is okay on DK. Good steals.
3,200. Heck yeah, that's fantastic. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, like he's going to hit optimals almost definitely. We'll see what our projection team does, but and also what I was looking at before had Davis in. So with Davis out as well as Fox.
For what it's worth for Indiana, we also just got Miles Turner in, Isaiah Jackson out. So Turner's interesting, but we don't have that screaming value situation.
Yeah. And Turner's the bigger one, obviously. If he was out, it'd be a little more interesting, but Jackson's is kind of a friend. He doesn't matter so much.
Malik Monk too at 5'4". I think you hit on him. I think I like him.
I wonder if we updated our starting lineups here because not just yet. It'll be coming in shortly. Do you think if Cleveland's like, hey, you're resting Fox, we're going to rest Mitchell?
I think probably.
I mean, just the game feels like it's a little bit easier.
At home, like I think they could kind of. I think they probably end up looking at this like we can probably beat Sacramento without Fox, even without Mitchell.
Front end of a back-to-back for Cleveland?
I think we see him sit for sure.
I think we see Mitchell sit as well.
DeAndre Hunter ruled out. We're going to see these projections, and I'm going to be right, and Dean's going to have to eat so much crow.
Jalen Johnson's going to put up 90 fantasy points tonight. Cannot wait.
I'm just saying, last time he started with him out, he put up 30+.
And Ben Simmons can't stop him because he's going to be he's glued to the bench. He's going to play 20 minutes in the first half, and that's it. He's done.
And so when they close with Curry, Harris, Irving, Durant, and Royce O'Neal, and we see Jalen Johnson closing at the 5, this is going to be fun next time we hang out.
Oh. Next time we hang out will be the first. Well, I guess virtually. Yeah.
You're going to message Devin and Steve and make sure they don't put me back on Grinders Live again.
I like our banter. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. Are we moving on from Sacramento, Cleveland? We're moving on, right? Let's talk about that Atlanta Brooklyn game. We've touched on it throughout the show, but let's hit on it some more. Brooklyn 231 is the total. They are an 8-point favorite here against Atlanta. We just got Hunter ruled out for Atlanta, which opens up some value as far as Atlanta. I'm curious what our projection team's going to do with it. Obviously, Collins is out and Murray's out, so 3 of their big scorers are not playing. And Trae Young, by the way, just like if he's going to chuck, he's going to take his shots. And he had an illness not too long ago and some funkiness as far as with the coach, but assuming he's fine and he's right, he's going to shoot a lot in this game. If it stays close, he might have put like 40 real life points in the bucket. Brooklyn without Claxton and Watanabe, so they are going to be pretty small. And like we said, Simmons drawn the start, but 20 minutes is a speculation. What's left to be said here about this game, Bobby? I feel like we haven't talked about Trae Young enough because we talked about the fringe guys, which are worth noting too. But, Young is a guy that can flat out break this slate.
Yeah, especially with Murray out. He becomes a great play. I like Trae Young. I don't know how much I'm getting to him currently. Just because there's other situations. Like, I don't mind Morant later on. You take out Hunter, I think, like we kind of hit on, really like Jalen Johnson. Clint Capella is someone I think is in a fantastic spot at the center position. Center's loaded, but it's a really good spot. And on the other side, Kevin Durant, he's my favorite on the Brooklyn side. He's 10-5. I think now we're kind of getting more value, so some of these guys are going to become more attainable. I think Durant is probably I might prefer Durant to Young for what it's worth, and I don't mind
run them at each other if you can. Can you run them at each other? We have enough value for that.
I think it's tough to do that. I would rather just play Bogey. I think Bogey's going to be the value at 4-1 that I would
they also just announced Bogdanović is still remaining on a minutes limit. Thing I'm trying to figure out right now is, is this slate too big for me to run Durant and Kyrie together tonight? Because I think Kyrie's my favorite play on the Nets with Durant right alongside him. And if I want to be playing three Atlanta
Kyrie
players,
taking a hit though with Ben?
I mean, only 20 to 25 minutes of Ben. I don't know how much of a hit he's going to be getting.
Yeah,
we still have him projected for over 40 fantasy points right now.
Why do you want to play him together? You want to stack the game?
Yeah, like I'm saying, if I'm playing Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, and AJ Griffin, maybe I want to be playing both Durant and Kyrie in my lineup.
Wait, you're playing Trae, Kyrie, and Durant? And Fanduel, I guess it's a little bit easier. You can make that work? Is that possible?
I think you can make it work on DraftKings too. It's super possible. I have Young, Irving, Durant, and Garland, and I still have $5,000 for my last two positions.
Hold on a second. Now, I mean, do you have a special access to more salary that I'm unaware of? That seems really
No,
good.
there's value now in Atlanta.
Okay,
it allows you to do this with Davion Mitchell and this Atlanta value. Like, if I pull over to DraftKings right now, and I just first off I look at Atlanta, and I see $3,800 Jalen Johnson, plug him into my lineup at the power forward position. I go to Sacramento, and I plug in my $3,200 Davion Mitchell. All of a sudden, we're cooking with gas here. I can look at the Brooklyn team, and I can plug in Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. And if I wanted to, because of the positional flexibility, it makes it tougher to do on DraftKings. But I still can play Durant, Irving, Young all together. And I have three positions to fill at $4,500 remaining. If I sort by points per dollar here, the players I'm looking at here, I got Bogdanovich, Avdia, Gafford, Quickly, all 4.1K or below, other than Avdia, who's still below 5K though. Plug him in at the forward position, and $4,400 for two positions left. That's easily doable.
All right. I put Young, Durant, and Kyrie in it. You have 4-1 to spend. Obviously, you threw a couple other guys in there. Kind of Mitchell's starting, by the way. No surprise there. 3.2K, and he's going to be.
Yeah,
I know you're going to say lock, but he's a lock in cash games. Like, he's a lock play in cash games on DK, and he's going to be heavily owned, I think, on DK as well.
My hot take of the night is if you're playing lots of lineups on DraftKings, I think you need to have one of Johnson, Bogdanovich, Culver in every one of your lineups, and one of Monk and Davion Mitchell in every one of your lineups. I don't see a scenario where one of the people in those groups don't absolutely smash.
Oh, I want to wager on that. I don't like your first hot take. The second one is a little better, I think. First one I didn't like. The Atlanta hot take I don't like.
One of the Atlanta value guys is going to at least 8x their salary on DraftKings.
Wait, the three you said one of Johnson,
Culver, and was it Griffin?
Sorry, 4. Culver, Griffin, Bogdanovich.
Now you're adding Bogdanovich. You're sneaking him in the back.
Bogdanovich was the first guy I said that last
time.
Well,
the bogey minutes thing still kind of irritates me. You got to figure.
He's gonna chuck though. He's gonna take a lot of shots when he's out there. Because who else? Yeah, I don't know. He's 4-1 on DK. We're giving him 20. Well, we got to update it. We haven't updated it yet. Right? We had 26 minutes. I don't know if you can go much higher than that. What has he played so far? I think 24 is the most he's played. What was the official?
I thought it was supposed to increase. I don't know why. I don't know. They're continuing to do this.
Oh, I got the wrong Bogdanovich. All right. We should move on. There's some stuff might be a game or two. Well, no, we'll power through it. I mean, Detroit and Memphis is a catch-me-up game. 227.5 is the total. Detroit scheduled loss, 11-point dog here. Steven Adams is questionable. If he doesn't go, Brandon Clark could be super, super interesting on that side. John Morant should do whatever he wants against this putrid Detroit team, one of the worst defenses in the league, as long as this game is close. I think he's going to be lost in the slate because of the salary and because of potential blowout. But, for sure, if you're running a bunch of lineups, I think Morant, you should be over on that. Bobby, what do you want to add as far as Detroit and Memphis? I think it's a pretty quick one to touch on, but if you have anything, go for it.
Yeah, I think the Brandon Clark news is very interesting. That's what you kind of – I think it would change this. We already got news that's going to change this slate pretty drastically. But I think he becomes a really good play at 3-6 if Adams sits. I like Morant. Like I said, Morant's – the issue is, do we need to run it back? Bane's not there. I think you would have to run it back in that situation, and it just becomes difficult. Maybe you can run it back with Bogdanovich, Detroit Bogdanovich, for what it's worth, just to clarify that. And Isaiah Stewart would be my two favorite run back options. I don't know.
On FanDuel, I'm going to be completely fading the Detroit side other than Bogdanovich, and because he's cheap. And then on the Memphis side, Morant would be in my pool in MME. So would Jaren Jackson Jr. If Adams is out, I would add Aldama, Conchar, and Brandon Clark to that pool. But other than that, I'm out on this game today.
But no priorities unless the Adams thing
Correct.
hits. And then
Correct.
Yeah. All right. New Orleans at home versus Phoenix. 228 is the total. New Orleans. 1 point dog here. A little surprising. Brandon Ingram's still out. Alvarado is questionable with his rib. Herb Jones is still out as well, too. Phoenix fully healthy, absence of Cam Johnson, Dwayne Washington, coming off an absolute thrashing the other night by Bobby's. Sort of. They're not your Celtics, are they? Kind of, sort of, somewhat. I guess they can be.
They're kind of, sort of, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so this is a good game to watch, I think. I don't know how amazing it is for DFS. Like, Zion's not going to get owned, which certainly that's interesting. I'm curious how you're handling this game for tournaments.
It's not a game that – oh, sorry, Bobby, you go.
It's not a game that I have too much interest in. I think that you could make a case for Joe Val just at the $6K price tag. And then on the other side of that, like Chris Paul in tournaments at 6'6", I'm pretty sure he is. Like, if he sees a full allotment, he becomes a very good tournament play.
TJ, go for it.
In a single game lineup, a single entry lineup, I'm going to have a tough time getting to anybody in this game. But in an MME style, I think this game has a lot of tournament winning upside. You look at the New Orleans side of things. On FanDuel here, we got a $5,700 Jonas Valanciunas. CJ McCollum is just sitting there at 7K. He's played so bad since he's been back from injury. 6'8" on DraftKings. That's crazy. No Brandon Ingram. That's crazy. But he's just been so bad. 2 for 11, 3 for 11, 3 for 11 in his 3 games since returning. At some point, CJ McCollum will be back to CJ McCollum, especially if Brandon Ingram is still out. So if I'm playing 150 lineups, I'd probably try and at least double the field on that 3% ownership we're getting on him right now. But in a single entry, it's going to be tough to get there. And another player I feel very similar about is Devin Booker. He could be a slate breaker today. He's 9,500. He's cheaper than the other expensive guys. Chris Paul's still on a minutes limit, so Booker should have still multiple runs here. They'll be staggered, so Booker should have multiple sets of minutes here that he plays, at least one in the first half, one in the second half, where Chris Paul's not on the court and he still has his 35% usage rate going. And so I really think that Booker and McCollum and Zion have tournament winning upside, but that would all be tough to get to unless you're running a lot of lineups.
Yeah, if Alvarado sits, I guess it doesn't hurt McCollum. I'm guessing Daniels might get a little more run. I'm not really sure if there's one direct. Is there one direct benefactor if Alvarado sits? I don't know if there's a clear and obvious
It'd be Daniels and Graham if Graham is out there playing, because Daniels, Graham, and McCollum are the only three who they'd run out there at point guard.
Doesn't matter. It mostly doesn't matter though, right? A quick way of
correct. What's Daniels' price on DraftKings?
4-1.
If Alvarado was out and we found that out before lock, I would put Dyson Daniels in my pool, but I don't think he's a must-have by anything like that. It's just that 4-1, that's shooting guard small forward eligibility for a guy who's probably going to play 30-plus minutes and half of those being at the point guard position. I think that's pretty interesting.
By the way, a note I meant to mention on a previous game, Brooklyn, the worst rebounding team in basketball, now without Claxton. Bobby, you mentioned Capella. This feels like, and if you're betting player props out there, this feels like a game where Capella can get 18 rebounds.
I really like Capella in this situation.
Sort of throwing that one out there. Also, I don't know if it's relevant for tonight, but of note, interesting, something to monitor. Larry Nance and Jonas Valanciunas last game. Nance played 28 minutes. Valanciunas played 20 minutes. They crossed over. They played together. We typically don't see that. They typically chop those 48. I guess they played 10 crossover minutes. I'm looking at it kind of right now, the old Court IQ, but just interesting of note. I'm not sure if we can do anything with that tonight, but just, put that in your back pocket. Minnesota, Utah, 235 is the total. Minnesota is a 2-point dog here. Of course, this is first blood revenge game. We'll see how vengeful Rudy Gobert is. First game back in Utah. Utah, the team that gives up the most points inside, points in the paint in the entire league. Rudy Gobert gets 75% of his points in the paint, so it's actually a good Gobert matchup as well. Of course, there is no Cat. As far as Utah, I think we're going to get Markkanen back. We'll see. Kind of a surprise scratch last game. Conley expected to be back this game, but of course they lost Colin Sexton. Will be out for like a week or so. Fontecchio, not really sure. He's questionable with an ankle. Doesn't matter so much unless you want like THT to get off the bench, who had a DNP CD last game. All those letters thrown out there. This feels like this should be a good game, Bobby, for DFS, but there's some salary. I don't know. I like this game more than like in theory than actually like building lineups. You tell me otherwise.
Yeah, I don't actually hate this game. Like, I think Gobert is fine, or he was fine prior to all this news, but now, like, it's such a loaded center position. I don't hate Gobert. Jalen Noel, 4,700 on DK. I think you can make a case. And Edwards, he's at 9K, and D'Angelo Russell's at 7-1. I think these guys are all fine tournament targets. On the other side, like Walker Kessler, if he starts 4-2, I don't have it. I don't hate that. Lauri Markkanen, he's Q-tagged, right? Or what's the situation?
Yeah, he had a surprise illness. I assume he's going to play, but we'll see.
Yeah. I like Markkanen at 8-3. Yeah, those are pretty much the guys that I have interested in this game.
Kessler looks more viable on DK, where he's 4-2 as opposed to 5-3 on FanDuel. Good blocker, good shot blocker. 1.18 FanDuel points per minute, 1.09 on DK. That's because you get more points for blocks on FanDuel, and also he's not a great three-point shooter. So the scoring system favors him on FanDuel, but also he's more expensive over there, and he's center and center only. TJ, thoughts as far as Minnesota? Do you like the revenge game here of Gobert? Because it's in the mix for me,
I mean, Rudy Gobert, revenge, sub 10% ownership on DraftKings, sub 1% ownership on FanDuel. Less than 1% owned, where we get the added bonus for steals and blocks. I mean,
good shot blocker.
I like me some Rudy Gobert today. Like, don't get me wrong. There's maybe a scenario if Fonta, however you say his last name, Fontecchio plays, that we get a scenario where they run a lineup with Olenek at the 5. And I guess if Markkanen plays, that becomes even more likely. And it just makes it so that there's not a Jazz player who's going to play inside. And it will kind of maybe pull Gobert off of the court. So that does worry me. But I mean, in tournaments, hell
they're not
yes,
taking
if
Gobert
I'm playing
off the
lots.
court. Come on. They're not going to pull Gobert in this game. Stop it. His first game back.
Not pull him off the court. Pull him from the net.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I got you. Never
like
mind.
he won't be blocking any shots if he's guarding somebody at the 3-point line. But that's what I'm saying. If they run Olenek at if they run a lineup where Olenek's at the 5, and Vanderbilt's not on the court because Markkanen plays, then it does limit Rudy Gobert's upside, I think. However, that's kind of why I'm not playing him in one lineup. But if I was running multiple lineups, I would definitely get a little bit of Rudy Gobert. If I was running 150, I'd be double his ownership on DraftKings and like 10x it on FanDuel because he's less than 1% owned.
By the way, don't sleep on the revenge on the other side, right? It's Beasley revenge and Vanderbilt revenge. We'll see who's most vengeful.
That could matter for somebody like Beasley.
He's a vengeful guy.
I feel like he's a vengeful guy and is the type where he just like picks and chooses his random games where he wants to put up 20 plus shots against a poor defensive team like Minnesota. No Colin Sexton eating up a lot of usage. I think Malik Beasley could be pretty interesting because with Conley playing now, he's going to start next to Clarkson. Beasley's kind of the sole point guard off the bench here, so I think he's pretty interesting.
Somebody in the chat was asking about our Atlanta. Yeah, I guess we're going to change Atlanta shortly. They're still kind of working on it. I'm curious what we do with the Hawks as well, as far as our projections. Utah, Minnesota. Anything else to see here, Bobby or so? We're going to mention the Dallas Milwaukee game, which is a fun game and two of the best DFS players in the world. And I guess we have salary now. It's opened up to some degree. We have the money, we have the funds. We really want it, but I'm guessing neither are popping in optimals. Of course, Giannis or Luka can put up 80 and just, okay, maybe you need these guys. They kind of sort of have to put up that number because the mid to upper tier is really, really strong. This game as a whole, Bobby, is I don't have a lot of it right now. Should I have some more?
I think Drew, he's always fine. Even with the value that's open up, we've kind of, there's a ton of mid-tier plays that I think you can go to. Like you're still playing like 13K for Doncic, 11.3 for Giannis. I don't know. I'm still sticking kind of with the mid-tier build because we also don't know, like you said it yourself, like Davion Mitchell, 3.2, but what's he, 0.69 fantasy points per minute? Like I'd have a little trepidation if I'm relying on him to get to those other guys.
Somebody in chat said DFS is going to go up. Did I read that correctly? I'm making this
Probably
up?
Roth's burner.
Somebody was talking about DFS having a big night. Like I don't know what about that tonight says that, but okay. What was the last time that dude broke the slate? TJ, what are we doing here? You're playing on Fanduel where it's easier to get to Giannis. It's easier to get to Luka. Luka's like what 11.6 or 11.3 over there. Are you making this happen?
Not in my one lineup, but running 150, I think it's just such an easy strategy to just double the field on Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo today. 3% Giannis, 8% Luka. Pretty easy numbers to get over the field on. If I was playing lots of lineups, I would include Drew Holiday in my pool. I would include Tim Hardaway Jr. in my pool, but that would be it from this game. Just those 4 players.
Washington starting, no surprise here. Morris, Kispert, Avdia, Kyle Kuzma, and the Zinger. And again, they're just down to 9 guys. So most of those guys are going to play probably 30 plus. Anything else of notes? Pat Bev is playing. Pat Bev is starting. Don't think that matters. Schroeder, Bev, Walker, James, and Davis. Crunch Time Crew is coming in here shortly. Kindly hit that like button while you hang out there and wait for the Crunch Time Crew. I think it's AMeansy. And is it STL cards? I think it's cards. Kevin Roth as well. Favorite stack tonight, Bobby? You have a favorite stack, or maybe somebody you want to say this is the player I'm going to be well over the field on?
I think it might be the Washington game. Just getting to Halliburton and some of these Washington guys.
TJ, you got a favorite stack?
As it stands right now, my lineup has 4 Atlanta Hawks and 3 Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, come on. 4 Hawks?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The Brooklyn Nets have the second highest total on the slate, or I guess technically third. They're 0.25 points below Memphis. This is a 6.5 point spread. If this stays close, I could really just see this being a 135-130 final. I think it's going to be fast paced with very, very little defense played. And so I think a game stack of that one can take down a tournament. What I'm kind of looking at doing right now, once these crunch time guys pop in here, is my smaller field stuff. I'm going to build something a little closer to optimal, and then I'm going to leave that big Brooklyn and Atlanta stack with in my large field stuff, and just kind of hope that game goes off.
We got Atlanta updated, it looks like. You're not going to like the Jalen Johnson projection. You're going to spit in the face of it, TJ, as far as I can tell, the way you've been talking them up. Let's see. Atlanta, we have – all right. We got 37 minutes delegated to Trae Young, 53 fantasy points, really, really strong. He's going to take a ton of shots, obviously. Capella's getting 30. I guess Okung was getting 18. Yeah, he's getting 18. Griffin, 32. Johnson, 30. Aaron Holiday, 28, and like Culver, 27, and both those guys projected for less than 20 fantasy points. That's kind of what I was talking about. That's empty minutes. Those are worthless minutes, basically. And Bogdanovich, we gave 26 minutes. We didn't really move him much because he's on that minutes limit still. But TJ, you say otherwise. You say Johnson's going to smash.
Best tournament value on the slate.
Whoa! All right. I'm curious what Andy Means has to say about that. I'm curious what STL Cards and Roth have to say as well. Let's see. What else is going on in the chat as we wait for the Crunch Time Crew to jump in?
Wait no more.
What's up, Roth?
What's happening, bud? How are you?
I'm doing all right. You're probably going to want to watch Giannis versus Luka, and you're going to want to play them both, and you're going to have a horrible rest of your lineup. Well, there's some pieces. There's some. Yeah.
But doesn't that sound fun?
You'll be live all night, though. Your team will not be dead until like midnight or something like that.
Right.
So there's some added value for you.
Yeah, it'll be a blast.
Andy Means, what's going on? Andy Means, I saw you wrote a letter to Bobby Hurley as a child, and then the beard.
Donovan Mitchell ruled out.
You like that?
Yeah, we got that one right. Garland's the man in Cleveland tonight. But check out Andy's Twitter.
I'd like to just say I got all those injuries right over the course of Grinders Live. Just sorry to everyone just popping in here. It's been a very combative day for Dean and I, so that's where this is coming from here. But I want to hammer this home. My bold take with Atlanta is that one of Clint Capella or Jalen Johnson will 10x their salaries today.
What about Onyeka?
You changed your takes. Like your Atlanta take has changed 19 times now, I believe.
No, I would still do that lineup build in lineup HQ that we were talking about, but I think either Clint Capella has a slate-breaking game, or this game goes small with Durant at the 5, Clint Capella does not close, and Jalen Johnson finishes with 10x his salary. One of those two things will happen.
I want you to tell Andy your take about Jalen Johnson being the best value play in the slate.
Best tournament value on the slate. He's sub 5% owned on because he's not a top cash value, because what makes him such a strong value is he's coming in sub 5% owned on DraftKings right now. And the last game he played without DeAndre Hunter that he started for him, he had 32 fantasy points after playing 32 minutes, projecting him for 30, which is a nice median, and it leaves him at a 5.3x base projection. But as we've seen from 2 games ago, we know he's got a 10x ceiling, and I think that makes him
his price was like 3K, and his price went up for what it's worth. So 10x is trickier to get now. Correct?
38 fantasy points is reasonable. Either Clint is going to have 60 or he's going to have over 30.
All right. Clint might bail you out. We'll see. I want Cards' take. I should have been specific. I'm curious what Cards has to say about this entire slate, but the Atlanta Hawks as well. Did TJ sell you, Cards?
I mean, I don't dislike him as much as you seem to, Dean.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if he's the guy I would pick out to plant my flag on, but I mean, that's TJ. That's why it's a flag plant, right? Not everybody's going to be on him, so we get 2, 3, 5% owned. I get the logic behind it. I don't think I'm gonna go that crazy.
Wasn't that the game Trae Young was out?
Yeah, but DeJounte is now out.
Minor details.
Does that matter?
Not that minor for a guy who gets rebounds and stocks, though. That's borderline better for him. It's like he's not a usage guy. He's a rebounder and a defensive guy.
He's going to 10x without scoring? Is he Draymond Green?
He will be this game.
All right. I've enjoyed it. We had a fun show. We do have to step aside and make way for the Fanduel sponsored Crunch Time. Unless you got anything else, Bobby. TJ, you got anything else before we step aside and go?
No.
Good luck, guys.
More than enough. These guys got to take it away.
I look forward to TJ trolling me on Twitter when things go awry.
Or vice versa.
Yeah. No, I would never. I would never stoop. No, I would troll you. All right. We're stepping aside. Roth, Fanduel sponsor Crunch Time. Take it over. We're out of here.
Appreciate it, guys. As always, welcome to it. It's Crunch Time. It is indeed sponsored by FanDuel. Is my mic coming in crazy hot, or is my volume okay? Means
you sound pretty good to me.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. I had to switch mics here last minute. But hey, welcome to it, guys. This is the moment you've been waiting for. You've waited all week for this, for Friday Crunch Time with 2 of the sharpest minds in the biz. One, Mr. Andy Means, who's got on a nice sweater as if he's going out.
I am going out.
Whew. I mean,
I'm just going to leave mid-show.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's. Can I get some details here on? You got a holiday party.
He was going out to a nice little dinner. Nice little dinner.
Wow, classy. He's a classy gentleman. He'll be drinking a fancy red wine. Will you drink? You'll swirl it. Oh, he's already. That's my guy. Already a step ahead. Means, how you feel about this slate, man?
I feel all right. I made a prediction this morning in my article that it was going to be really slow news day, like all the way up through the day, and then it was going to be backloaded with news. And I didn't really think ahead to the backloaded with news is like right now, like the last 30 minutes. And I was like,
that's you.
Okay, yeah. And
I love that you made that prediction and it didn't come full circle, that you were like, oh, this is going to suck.
Well, I mean, morning means he knew that, but
Yeah.
evening means he just realized it, and now he's a little upset about it.
Yeah, that'll happen. Things will break. But we're looking forward to having you to guide us through it. We also have the one, the only, the STL Cards in the house coming in with some hot fire GPP takes. Cards, how are you?
Happiest Friday. We've had some issues with our littlest guy this week. 2 trips to the ER, 2 trips to the pediatrician, and an infection in his leg, plus an allergic reaction to said medicine that they gave for him, and it has just been it's been a struggle this week. So he was out the whole week of school, and it's definitely good that it's Friday afternoon, and we'll hope that next week is a little more smooth in the household. It's never great when you're at the hospital with the little ones. So
no, that's not fun. Well, we did have you as the questionable tag for today because everyone in your family was going down with various ailments, but you're here, you made it, you sound okay, so you've avoided whatever bug is going around.
Oh, it's not. I mean, that's what we thought it was at first. We thought he was just getting the flu, but it's just been all of a sudden it was, he got this big rash on his leg and it got an infection in it, and it's just this leg, and we can't. I mean, it just keeps spreading. It's really weird. Thankfully, we don't have anything else going on, but it's nice to have a distraction and talk some hoops for a while and forget about what the week that has been. Man,
that is so true. It's always good to be on here, talk some hoops, and kind of put everything.
And why is the Dallas game at 10 o'clock?
TV, baby.
Yeah, I'm not.
10 o'clock?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't stay up for that anymore. I'm old.
No, I can't make that happen. Dean was like, "Oh, Roth, that's what you're gonna do, right?" Like, I'm
gonna be sleeping by the first quarter.
Yeah. But hey, look, guys, let's talk about this slate. We do have plenty of games. We've already got plenty of comments coming in on the chat. So let's get to some of the news. A general outlook, perhaps, means.
Yeah, the most recent stuff is pretty much what we've been waiting on all day. Donovan Mitchell just got ruled out, like TJ said. A little before that, De'Aaron Fox got ruled out. Some smaller stuff that doesn't really move the needle a ton, but was unexpected. Nick Claxton got ruled out for the Nets. Those are the 2 big ones with the Kings and the Cavs, though, like, because that makes Darius Garland a really good play, especially on DK. Like Davion Mitchell's really cheap on DK. We'll talk through it, but those are the main things. DeAndre Hunter got ruled out, which is relevant as well, and I'll talk all through this, I guess, when we go through builds and whatnot.
Okay, very good. Well, let's dive right into it. Of course, this show is sponsored by the one, the only, the Fanduel. If you haven't done so, make sure you sign up for the Fanduel Sportsbook in legal sports betting states. They've got their bonus offer going down. New customers get the old no sweat first bet up to 1,000 smackaroos, if that's still a thing that people say. So make sure you're doing that. And Means, why don't you walk us through a little Fanduel cash build?
Yeah, this is the most difficult slate I can remember in terms of, excuse me, like prioritizing stuff. This is maybe on FanDuel. I really like Trae Young because he's 9-7, but like in terms of like actually listing core plays, man, I don't think there's really. I mean, it'll change a little bit now that we've had some news break, but at least throughout most of the day, there was like not anyone that I thought stood above the rest on any
Is that
side,
because everybody's good or everybody's trash, or it's just kind of in between?
In between, man. It's like I don't know. It's weird. There's just a little things to nitpick here and there. Prices are a little higher than I'd like. Like with Davion Mitchell, like last year, if De'Aaron Fox was out, we'd be rushing to jam him in no matter what. But like now they have Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, so like it's not as clean of a spot as it used to be. So just a lot of just weird, just random variables that are factoring in here. But let's start at guard on FanDuel. I have Trae tagged. He's 9-7. No John Collins, no DeJounte Murray, no DeAndre Hunter. Those are, not counting Bogey, probably like their other 3 highest usage guys would be my guess without actually verifying that. So he's probably one of my favorite spins. But man, like you can also make a case now that Darius Garland's better because he's $1,400 cheaper and there's no Donovan Mitchell. I probably prioritize Darius Garland instead. You can play both. So those are 2 of the best spins at point guard. Working our way down, point guard, shooting guard eligibility for Terry Rozier. The guy just gets 40 like every time, man. They have nobody. He shoots a ton. As long as the game's close, he's going to play like 38 minutes, 39 minutes. He's going to shoot 23 times. Like, he just always gets like 40. So it's tough to not want to play him, but it's not like he's a standout play. So maybe more of a last piece sort of thing, but still a really solid option. Cheap stuff. Markelle Fultz. If you want to play him tonight, don't look at his box score, because I don't know what he was doing last game, but he had like a 12% usage rate, and he had like 4 fantasy points or something. It was a really strange outing, because the 4 games prior to that, he was looking good. Like per minute, his rates were where we want him. So I don't know what happened last game. There's other options if you want to, like Davion Mitchell, $600 cheaper. Like Jordan Goodwin's $500 cheaper. Like he's in play too. Monte Morris is $5,500. He's kind of in that middle range. Throw his name out there. The Wizards have 9 guys in that, I think. So that'll probably do it. I listed a bunch of guys there. So a pretty heavy or a pretty deep point guard position, I should say. Shooting guard, Karis LeVert just got announced as starting for Mitchell, and he's only $5K. Like, you're probably looking at him being the second, maybe even the highest usage guy tonight on Cleveland. He might take more shots than Garland. Garland obviously is going to play more minutes and has the assists working in his favor. So Karis LeVert might be one of the best cheap plays on the slate now at 5K. Bogey, Hawks Bogdanovic. They say he's still on the minutes limit. But again, I just listed all those guys that the Hawks are without. He's only 4-4. 2 of the better cheap plays on the slate right there. That's it for priority stuff. Small forward. Both of those guys I just mentioned, LeVert and Bogey, have small forward eligibility. You have some Washington guys. Abdi at 5'5", Kispert 3'9", then up top Kuzma at 7'5". Those guys are all really good plays, man. There's 9 Wizards that are going to play tonight, so it's a lot easier to hone in on who we want. Probably a little lighter on Bridges than our projections. He's 6K. I don't love paying 6K, especially now they're basically fully healthy, minus like Cam Johnson and Jay Crowder. I'd focus on LeVert and Bogey here at small forward. Kevin Durant was popping up in some stuff for me earlier, but now that we have like another expensive point guard out of the mix with Garland, probably more of a tournament play. So I'll kind of pass over that. Let's go to power forward. Jared Allen looked awesome in his first game back. He played like 38 minutes, had 48 fantasy points or something. Kevin Love's out. I really like him. He's $6,900. I would play him over Mobley, especially for $400 cheaper. We have that as clearly Mobley. I'm much more on the Allen train there. But they're both really good plays. You have the 2 Wizards. You have Zinger and Kuzma. Those are good spin ups. I'm probably wanting to sit in this 6-7K range on FanDuel. Allen, Mobley, Kuzma, Julius Randle at 8-2. That's a little more, but that's a great range to be spinning on at power forward. Then let's go to center real quick. You have Jared Allen there. You can play him in either, obviously, and then Clint Capella, Rudy Gobert, Mason Plumlee, Mitchell Robinson, all good options. I would stick to those 3 or 4 for center. That's all I got, I think.
Okay, very good. Good stuff. I feel a general idea of the build here. Now let's kick it over to cards. Get some GPP thoughts from you, man. How are you feeling about the slate here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a night where you have to worry a ton about chalk. Ownership is going to be spread out a little bit. Right now, we've got like Fultz as the only guy over 33% ownership on FanDuel. And really, I don't necessarily think that he's even a must in tournaments simply because of his volatility. And it goes to the nature of the slate when you see a guy that, his game log is... I mean, he was out for a while, and then he came back, limited minutes, and then he had one really strong game, and then, as Andy mentioned, that clunker his last time out. I don't necessarily... I mean, he doesn't just pop off the page as a guy that you need to play at 40% ownership. So, if you say, okay, I'm out on Fultz, And maybe you take another super chalky guy that you want to take an underweight stance on. Take your pick. I don't necessarily. Fultz is the guy I feel the most strongly about probably taking an underweight stance on in tournaments, and pick out a couple more of your own. And then you don't really have to worry a whole lot about ownership on these guys. You can play some of the chalkier, cheap guys like, Plumlee's going to be somewhat popular. Bogdanovich is going to be somewhat popular. But even Bogdanovich, I mean, there's not a huge ceiling there if they're going to stick to that minutes limit a little bit. So, yeah, you probably need to play some guys in this realm simply because you need value, unless you're going completely balanced, which I think is viable as well. So, outside of that, you pick a couple guys you want to be underweight on, and then you don't have to worry a whole lot about ownership in your builds tonight. So it's one of the rare nights that you'll say that in GPPs, particularly on a somewhat larger slate, with a decent amount of injury news. So if you start to go through the positions, I mean, obviously I agree. If you're looking for the highest upside guys at point guard, I think guys like Rozier, Garland, Trae Young, you're probably playing some combination of those guys in your GPP builds tonight. I don't like Quickly as much now. He was popping a little bit earlier in the day, and maybe a little site dependent for him as well. But certainly you could look to him for a value if you want. I am probably going to take an overweight stance on Davion Mitchell. Again, Meansy talked about this, and the fact that last year, anytime Fox was out, I mean, Mitchell was kind of a plug and play, but now they've got Monk, they've got Herter, and the game that the sample that we have that Fox missed, it was those other guys that had a big night. But I mean, it's a small sample, so Mitchell could very well come back and have a 40 fantasy point game, 35 fantasy point game this time around, and he's cheap. So will be interesting to see where ownership kind of ends up settling on him. But I think if you use some combination of Rozier, Trae, Garland, and Davion Mitchell at your guard spots, those are the guys I'm probably going to have the most exposure to. Obviously, you can play Rozier, you can play Garland at shooting guard. You've also got some other options once you get to shooting guard, small forward, that you can fit in there. I think Halliburton is interesting in GPPs, though he's pricey. If I had to pick a game to stack, I think that Washington-Indiana game is one of the first choices. You got a 234 total in that game. Indiana's games have been extremely high scoring of late. They play fast. They don't play the greatest defense, and Washington's also thin. So you're getting it would be even better for fantasy, and you'd have a lot more chalk if Porzingis was also out. But since he's in, you're not getting as much ownership maybe on the rest of these guys. So Avdia at small forward, power forward, Monte Morris, who I didn't mention at point guard. You've got Kuzma at small forward, power forward as well. So I think in GPPs you could get a potential game stack of that game. Start with Halliburton as your highest owned guy, maybe Kuzma as another one of your high-end guys, and you can get a nice little game stack there, even though it's the first game of the night, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be a night where we've got a ton of news later on that's going to completely bust up your lineup if you go heavier on the earlier games. So I'm not worried too much about that tonight. Other front court plays, again, I've already mentioned the Wizards guys I think are fine. Julius Randle I think is a strong play as well. Agree with Andy's thoughts on Jared Allen. I think he's one of the better tournament plays of the slate at 6,900. Like Durant and GPPs if you can get there. And then centers, a lot of these guys like Allen and Randall also have power forward eligibility. Capella for that thinned out Atlanta team. Mitchell Robinson, always a guy that's had upside on a permanent basis, but the minutes have been the question mark. He's kind of steadily been getting a little bit more playing time of late in the competitive game, so I think Mitchell Robinson is in play for GPPs as well. Embiid is probably the star that gets priced out a little bit for most people, but we've also got him at 5%, and they're facing the Lakers tonight. So you can always play Embiid in tournaments if you want to.
Okay, very good. Means you said that we'd probably be getting some news mid-show, and we just did. Markkanen is out, along with someone named Simone Fettuccini, but I don't think Simone Fettuccini is important. The Markkanen part, though, does seem important.
Fettuccini was the guy who scored the game-winning bucket the other night and was playing over our guy THT, who we were talking about endlessly on Wednesday. And I'm pretty sure he was on pace to catch a DNP CD. I don't know if he officially did, but Yeah, I don't want to. A couple points here. What Carr just said is actually kind of important about the injuries. Like, we might be getting most of the news already.
Mhm.
I see a Q tag on Steven Adams still. He usually plays through those, but we'll see. But like, that Utah stuff was maybe one of the only things we were waiting on.
Yeah.
So completely agree with, like, we talk about this a lot, like which side of the fence you're on when it comes to, do I wait or do I play guys I like early? Like, I think it's like a play guys you like tonight. Like, don't worry about timing the games. Like, it's highly unlikely that we get like slate shifting stuff from here on out. The Jazz, so they get Conley back tonight. They're without Markkanen. They're without Sexton. He got hurt last game, so he's out. They did call up a couple G League guys, though. So it looks like they have 8, 9, 10, 11. Looks like they still have 12 guys, so not going to be as appealing as I thought it'd be if both of those guys are out. We'll see where projections land on some of these guys. And as you saw 2 nights ago, like, maybe they're starting to dive into the tank a little bit more.
Yeah.
We'll
Right.
see. Like, that was kind of
What's
weird that THT just got – yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What's the Conley minute projection here with Sexton out? I mean, I'm at least a little interested.
Yeah, let's see. I think he's missed like 7 or 8 games. We have him at 26. So cheap price tag though too. So that's something to keep in mind. We'll revisit that when I see the projections update.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I suppose we'll dive into a DK build here.
Yeah, I don't think that Utah news is going to move the needle as much as we think, because I think Cleveland's better. I think Atlanta's better. We have Davion Mitchell already. I think Washington's arguably going to be better. We'll see. I don't know, especially on DK, because I think those guys are priced up a little more. So I wouldn't get your hopes up that like we're going to have a no-brainer out of that mix.
Gotcha.
All right. Let's see here. On DK, I went ahead. I mean, again, on DK, if I really only want to attack one person on DK, and that's Garland. Like, I love Garland. Trae Young's a little more expensive on DK. Again, like, there's just a bunch of above average plays tonight. It's really crazy. He would be the guy I like more than anybody tonight. So take that for what it's worth. I also have Avdia tagged. I also have Bogdanovich tagged. Like, I could pick holes in both of those guys, but they're 2 of my favorite cheap plays on the slate. Another good cheap play on the slate, whose name has popped up a bunch already, is Davion Mitchell. He's 3-2 on DK. Way different than the 4K price tag on Fanduel. Thought Carr's made some good points too. Like, that was just one game that we were going on when Fox was out. Using, like, being logical about it, it does make sense that they have more ball handlers, more higher usage guys in the mix this year. But again, this is a guy they invested in, man. He was a top 8 or 9 pick, if I recall correctly, last year. So, like, they're going to give him a chance. And if he's playing well, he's going to play more. So, at the least, just a phenomenal tournament play. And it's like, the good thing is, too, if I'm looking at him right here, this is exactly what you want to see. If you look at him in lineup HQ, he's like not popping anywhere close to the top of a point guard ranking. We have him for like 20 DK points, 30 minutes, 15% ownership. Like, that's what you want to see. Like, he could easily get 30 DK points tonight, easily, if he just plays decently well. So, yeah. I really like him for both formats. Cards mentioned quickly too. It's weird. A bunch of the Knicks guys are popping a lot on DK just because of price tags. Their ownership probably is going to dwindle a little bit just because other situations have moved. My dogs are going crazy about Emmanuel quickly, apparently. Let's see. Brunson is another Nick. He's 6,800. I think he's fine. I think that is enough about point guard. Let's go to shooting guard. Bogey, I have tagged. Karis LeVert's 4-4, man. Like, I think you got to probably play him in cash games. Like, that's a really, really cheap price tag for a starter. I mean, second or first highest usage on this team tonight. I mean, you should probably be playing him. He's a borderline core play for me. Malik Monk, 5'4". I mentioned those guys. Yeah, Kelly Oubre, just a guy who's kind of been landing in the mix a lot for me today, just because, like I was saying about Rozier, these guys, these are the two guys they have, man. They play a ton of minutes, and they even like have like longer leashes even when games are getting out of hand. He's played 40, 40, 39, 37 the last 4 games. So he's got 36s, 46s, 38s, 40. Like he's going to get you 40 probably, and he's 6,900. So I think a good place to spend is kind of like a last piece sort of thing. I wouldn't be prioritizing by any stretch. That's good enough for shooting guard. Let's go to small forward, where a couple of these guys have that eligibility. So I don't even think there's anything I need to say besides Abdia is the only other guy that I haven't mentioned yet. Levert, Monk, Oubre. Yeah, all those guys are good. So I can go right on through. So yeah, you got a dog barking. Maybe they hear mine.
I'm so over
dogs. You're a dog hater. Ross like muting. Yeah, like all right, power forward. Julius Randle, if you're spinning up, don't think you have to. Like on DK, you might land there though, because Trey's a lot more expensive. So I like him. I like let's see here. I like Abdia. I already mentioned him. Yeah, I think it's pretty much between those two. Actually, it's kind of a thin position now that I'm looking at it a little more after all this news is settled. So, I mean, I don't know what in the world's going on up there. Sorry. Center, Jared Allen, definitely the guy I like the most. I already talked about him on FanDuel. He's 900 cheaper than Mobley. He scores more. Like I know they both play off of other guys, but he finds his way to the basket more. So I would much rather play Allen over Mobley. Mitchell Robinson was like one of the first guys into lineups earlier in the day, just because center was kind of weak and he was cheap. Probably more of the last piece sort of thing. Walker Kessler, starting in center now for the Jazz. He's only 4.2. Ayton, 7K. I would much rather play Jared Allen. Yeah, I think that's it, man. This is a weird day. I have no conviction on anybody except for like Carlin. It's weird. So I hope I helped a little bit though.
No, I think so. You gave us, the range of guys we want to play in, so that's what we're looking for. And cards, it feels like it's great for GPPs when you don't, or maybe you prefer when everybody's loaded up on chalk. But anything different here on DK that you want to go over as compared to FanDuel?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think the DraftKings build is a little more straightforward, and I think it opens up a lot of possibilities because if I remember, I was higher than kind of the masses on Davion Mitchell, and he's only 3,200 on DraftKings. I'm fine with Levert, who Andy mentioned as well, because he's only 4,400 on DraftKings. Means he also just mentioned Kessler. He's 4,200. You've got Monk at 5,400. Garland is probably a plug and play on DraftKings, and yeah, that's a lot of exposure to Cleveland, Sacramento. That makes that game pretty stackable if you wanted to just do a full stack of that. But if I plug in like Mitchell and Levert and Kessler or Monk, I mean, you got like 8K for the rest of your spots, so you can almost mix and match whatever you want with the rest of your lineup build on DraftKings. If you play some of those cheap guys, and I like the way the cheap guys make your lineup work a little bit better on DraftKings. And now that's going to take up like Mitchell, Levert, Monk, Garland. Like those guys take up your guard spots. That leaves you with front court spots remaining, where you've got the Knicks guys who we've talked about. Rozier is small forward eligible on DraftKings, which could be a big deal given the way your lineup might shake out. I still like Kuzma, though he's a bit pricey at 8,100. I still think he's fine for GPPs. And those are some of the guys that you can round out. And maybe you've got enough salary. It's tough, but maybe you've got enough salary to get to a Durant or a Giannis or a Luka. It's really tough to get there on this slate, but maybe we've got enough value now to make it work. And you're still getting like 3-4% ownership on these guys that, on any given night, one of them might drop 80. So I think that's the interesting way to build on DK. And then that's probably good in the interest of time here.
Okay, well, let's get some questions here as I start throwing in this.
Flew by, man. It's already 5 or 6 minutes to lock. This flew by.
Flying by means. Let's get to these QQs here. Okay, which Knicks I'm just scrolling up a little bit here. I made it. Says which Knicks are good in GPP and which one should I X out? Cards, any Knicks that you're interested in?
Yeah, I like Randall and Robinson probably the most for upside. Brunson is probably fine, but guard is so loaded that I'd rather prioritize the front court guys. So I think Randall and Robinson are the best. I can leave Brunson. I can probably leave Barrett as well.
Okay, very good. Let's see. Oh, I see. Okay, JFig says Fanduel means you want Young and Plumlee or Harden Robinson. There was no commas, so I just thought if he was asking if you wanted a Young Plumlee. Is there another one?
I hope there's no more Plumlees.
Right, I wasn't sure if there was another one coming.
I would do the first one.
Okay, very good. FanDuel and then cards. What are your thoughts of pivoting off Trey to Halliburton for ownership and single entry?
Yeah, I like Halliburton quite a bit in tournaments. I think you could play him as a standalone guy as well.
Very good. Okay. FanDuel Cash, Fultz and Mobley means, or Mitchell and Rosie.
I guess that means Rozier.
I would think that means Rozier, yeah.
I'll do the Rozier one.
Very good. NBA DFS FanDuel Cash question. I know Conley's coming back, but with no Markkanen and Sexton, do you like Rozier Allen or Clarkson Randall?
That is a good question. I want to see where we landed on Clarkson because I know he's usually underpriced on FanDuel like he was on Wednesday. So just bear with me 4 seconds. I'm just refreshing.
We got him at like 36-ish fantasy points.
30. And what is he, 6 something?
6'6".
Ooh, and it was Clarkson and who?
It was Clarkson and Randall versus Rozier Allen.
That's got to be Rozier Allen.
Yeah, I would probably do Rozier Allen, but Clarkson's a really good play on FanDuel again.
Okay, very good. CLT just pointing out a few years ago when I said the easiest way to win head-to-heads is to find people with dog abbeys, the dog avatars.
I do remember that.
And then we've got Shrek, who hangs out in our Discord, who's like one of the better DFS players in the world, who has a dog abbey, and he just fucking crushes. So you got to prove me wrong a little bit there, but the thesis still holds.
Why do you got to tell us after lock? I need to be caught up on why you hate dogs so much.
I don't hate dogs. I've got one.
I know, but you seemed very annoyed.
Today.
Yeah. FanDuel Cash, Goodwin or Davion Mitchell means?
I would play Davion.
Steve-O pointing out Trae Young has been a dud machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
His shooting's awful. I don't know, but he's going to chuck it. There's no DeJounte, man. I'm always betting on volume.
Yeah, agreed. Carolina guy, your favorite spend-up cards in FanDuel single entry?
I mean, you got to define whether it's like one of the super high-end guys. I think, if you're getting all the way to the top, it's probably Giannis in GPPs. Otherwise, if you're looking maybe just a little bit, like Durant is fine. Somewhere in that range, Durant or Giannis.
Okay, very good. Where are we at here? On FanDuel with Oubre and Rozier the same price, which of those two do you prefer, Means?
That's a tough question, actually. I would probably play Rozier.
Okay, very good. FanDuel single entry cards, LeVert or Beasley in a FanDuel GPP?
Yeah, I mean, I know he'll be popular, but I got to go LeVert there.
Very good. FanDuel Cash, we've got less than 2 minutes left here. Halliburton, LeVert, or Trey and Ginger Herder?
Probably the second one.
Okay, very good. Halliburton or Sabonis on DK? Means?
Oh, man, I didn't talk about Sabonis either. He's really cheap on DK, I think. I love Sabonis tonight. Like, he's not projecting well. He's going to get at least 50 fantasy points. So just like literally, as they say on the Bill Simmons podcast, turn the camera on so you can clip this for social because he's getting at least 50 fantasy points tonight.
Okay. I assume then you want him over Halliburton personally.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. True North says, plug it in Clark. Who do I pivot to at forward for 4,100 or less if Adams is going to play?
I guess that was me. Do we have the site?
No.
Call it
But
DK.
it's got to be DK because it's for forward. So it means 4,100
Yeah.
or less forward.
Try to get something real quick here.
Okay. In the meantime, cards DK Cash, Clarkson Abdia, or Bogdan Randall.
Ooh. On DK, Clarkson's a bit pricey, so I'd go the second one.
My answer is bogey if you don't already have them. If not, then you probably got to move stuff around.
Okay, bogey's the right answer. I like it. DK Cash, we hit the lock. Brunson Allen or Rozier and Plum Dog?
First one for sure on that one.
All right, take a couple more. AJ says last piece, Abdia or Mitrov? DK Cash means.
I think Abdi is a little safer.
Steve O, Plum Dog or Mo Wagner? DK GPP cards.
Let's see where we've got Wagner at. Yeah, give me Plumlee.
Okay, very good. Hey, we hit the lock. Here's my issue. I don't dislike dogs. I like dogs. I used to have a good dog, and then once
One in the background, they're catching strays.
Yeah. Well, once I had kids, like the dog gets less attention, so he just gets worse, and then it's hard. Like these negative habits reinforce themselves. I can't yell at the dog because I got kids. So now when I yell at the dog, my kid's running around yelling at her little sister because she hears me yelling at the dog. It's just
You're not ever supposed to yell at the dog. The dog thinks you're playing when you yell at the dog.
I know. He gets excited. He's like, oh, good. This is the most attention I've got in years. So
Yeah.
now I'm going to act up worse. It's just like, I blew it. I got a dog. I blew it because I had kids.
Boogie shit in the house today, so it's fine.
Oh man, you want to talk about that? So our dog is, the good news is our dog is not going to follow your dog's lead and go nuts if she hears other dogs because she's 15 and she's completely deaf now, which has been somewhat of a blessing because we don't bark at the fireworks and all the stuff that used to make us freak out. But also at 15, you start to lose the ability to control your faculties quite as well as what you did in the past. And of course, in the process of us spending 15 hours in the hospital this week and crating her, she decided at one point to use the facilities in the cage and then get it all over the blankets that were in there. And of course, it's just the last thing you want to deal with after you've already been at the hospital. And you got
such a long day to come home to that.
You come home and you got dog crap in the cage, and it's just not.
Oh man!
Can we give it up to Cards for even like showing up on the show?
You seriously?
Playing,
that is.
He's like playing through the Q tag. If we've ever.
I'm fine. I got nothing going. It's just
man. You got a lot of stuff going on. Let's give it up for Cards for showing up for everybody.
That's tough, man. But good stuff, Cards. We appreciate you. We love it. Hope your family, is pulling out of it here because.
We just need to. We've got the third different antibiotic now. Again, we're just trying to treat an infection in the leg, which has spread daily. And so he got IV antibiotics today, and originally they said they were gonna, at like noon, we thought they were gonna sedate him and slice his leg open and drain it, and that was the plan. Then like 30 minutes later, they reversed course and said, we don't want to do that to a 9-year-old. Let's try another antibiotic. And again, we don't even know, he didn't have a cut, he didn't have a scratch, so we don't know what started this skin infection in his leg, but it's just gotten out of control. Now we've got the third antibiotic, which better not cause an allergic reaction. It better work because it was like $200, and hopefully that gets us on the mend after a rough week. So fingers crossed.
All right, fingers crossed for you, man. We'll be thinking about you and keep us updated. Hopefully everything works out. We are going to get on out of here. So for Cards, for our wonderful production team, always working hard behind the scenes, guys. We appreciate you. We love you, and we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.